Hello, friends. This is Ma David the Thunder Wizard, and I want to revisit the Dalai Lama scandal. I'm not going to go over everything that we looked at before, but what I want to talk to you about is people's extremely codependent and, in my estimation, naive and immature reactions to my video. I mean, I knew my video was going to push buttons because there's a lot of people who I'm sure there's a lot of Buddhists out there who, feel the need to defend their religion, and if they're Tibetan Buddhist, defend the leader of their religion. So that's not completely, a mystery to me. But what I am seeing is, people who follow my channel, who I'm seeing respond extremely codependently. So what I want to focus on here is exactly what I wanted to bring up in the first videos about this, which is that the need to worship a guru and see that guru as beyond you is codependent. The need to see your teacher as your mother or your father is codependent. So let's define codependent. Codependent doesn't mean being clingy or needy. That's an inaccurate understanding. Codependent means that if you're a codependent person, or if you have codependent tendencies, it means that you get your worth, your value, and your feeling of being loved based on what you do, not who you are, or based on something very superficial, like the way you look, as opposed to who you are. That is codependent. So to have an attachment, to feel the need to see another human being as being more evolved than you, to need to see them as a reincarnation of a deity, to need to see them as being enlightened in the sense that they no longer have any human failings or frailties, the need to worship them even is codependent. This is what I meant when I said earlier that it is devaluing. Because if you need to have somebody be more than human in order for you to follow them, in order for you to feel safe by following them, it means that you don't believe that you're worthy of love. It means that you don't believe that you're worthy of being loved by the universe. And this is what infants do. And it is a necessary stage of infancy. But the infant, if they're healthy, they grow out of it. So when you've got full-on adults, who feel the need to have this guru give them their value, just the fact that he or she exists, like Jesus. Try telling a Christian that Jesus never existed. It will cause such a crisis within them because they identify with Jesus. They identify their existence. They identify their ability to be saved from evil and bad and wrong and sin with the existence of this person who's more than human. I mean, he's the perfect example. He's the God-man. He's God in flesh. He has no sin. He is perfect. He is beyond all of you. That is extremely codependent. Again, the difference between Jesus and Odin. Odin is an example of what you can become. Jesus is not. You'll never attain what Jesus had. But the other fact is that Jesus never existed. And I've made videos about that, proving that it's impossible for him to have existed. But getting back to the Dalai Lama, people's reactions to me pointing out to him. Bear in mind, people were responding to the title, and again, it's a clickbait title because I'm on YouTube and I want people to watch my videos. So people respond. It's amazing to me how people will write entire comments based on based on a title of a video. At least some people have, the honesty to say, I haven't watched the video yet, but the title. But people will write these huge paragraphs based only on the title. And when I upload a video for Premiere, and people are already leaving comments and they haven't even bothered to watch the video yet, you know what I mean? It shows me somebody who's very reactive and doesn't even have the patience to be able to wait and watch what happens. And then people's inability to watch their own reactions to things, which is part of it. Part of what you should be doing is watching your own reactions to the titles of the videos I put out. Wait until you watch the video. But again, I was even surprised at people who are faithful followers of my channel, who should know better, who should know that I represent your godhood, your individuality, your individual spiritual authority over yourself. That is one of the things that I represent on this channel. It's one of the things that I teach. And you guys are codependently responding to me. You're distorting the subject. You're responding out of your fear. And you can't tolerate the thought that anybody is going to expose one of your gurus as being a faulty human, which is all I'm doing. So let me be clear. I have nothing against the Dalai Lama. As I said, I don't know him. And I don't care. First off, I don't need him to be perfect. And second off, I don't need his religion in order for me to feel spiritually connected. I don't need any of that. And if you do, I understand that, but I encourage you to at least meditate on going beyond the need to have somebody be something they're not. But one of the biggest things is that people are distorting this discussion in order to defend defend him. So look, let me just go over some of it. Somebody accused me of being part of cancel culture. That they're going to half-ass, they're going to kiss my ass codependently and say, I understand where you're coming from this, but I'm also not part of cancel culture. This has nothing to do with cancel culture. I'm not canceling the guy. Anyway, let's talk about one of the biggest things people are using to defend the Dalai Lama here. So I did research this, by the way, before I made my videos, but one of the things that people are using to defend the Dalai Lama, let's be clear, he asked a 4-year-old boy to suck his tongue in front of the whole world. And people are saying, you don't understand, that's part of Tibetan culture. Well, they're distorting this. It is part of Tibetan culture that sticking your tongue out has some kind of sign of respect or something like that based on some blah, blah, blah. But sticking your tongue out as a sign of communication has nothing to do with asking a 4-year-old boy to suck your tongue. And to make that connection and to make that distortion is clearly an overreach, a codependent overreach to protect your parental figure who has clearly made, at the very least, a serious mistake. Here's my problem with it. Even if somebody were to convince me that asking a 4-year-old boy to suck your tongue is somehow cute and part of culture, if somebody were to be able to convince me of that, even if that were true, here's my big problem with it. The Dalai Lama is a figurehead who represents, number one, the entire Tibetan culture. He represents he is the head of the Tibetan Buddhist religion. And on top of that, he has this, his job is to seek to get his country back, right? That's the big thing behind him. He represents freedom from oppression, freedom from all the things associated with the overreaches of communism and dictatorships and all of that. So that is a huge job, which requires tremendous understanding and maturity. And the Dalai, again, as a human being, I don't have a problem with him making stupid mistakes. We all do. But as somebody who defends his ignorance when it suits him, for instance, if you read his incredibly lame defense for this incident with the little boy, it was incredibly, I felt it was a damaging response. I felt it further damaged his reputation, and it showed insensitivity to people's concerns. Because he responded and he said, first he made a lame excuse about, first of all, he teases young boys, which, why is that okay? I don't know. Then he went on to say that he was sorry for how his words affected other people. And he made no mention of the actions that he took. And again, even if he's a doddering old fool who doesn't know any better, it still doesn't excuse the fact that as his station, he should know better. And again, human beings are imperfect, except that people are going out of their way to excuse him for doing something that I couldn't get away with. I'm old enough to be that little kid's grandpa. I mean, what would the world do to me if I, number one, were to ask a 4-year-old boy to kiss me on the lips? If he was my grandson, maybe. But some kid I didn't know, I wouldn't be able to. The world would tear me to shreds, and rightly so. But imagine if I were to say, jokingly, now suck my tongue. I would be, the response would be universally and understandably and rightfully so, very hostile. So what you guys are doing is you're making excuses for somebody, not because of it's his culture, but because he represents your daddy. You still are codependently needing to have somebody be beyond you, more perfect than you, because you devalue yourself. You believe that you will be loved by God if you devalue yourself. The fact that you're not a Christian or that you're not religious doesn't change the fact on an unconscious level you must need mommy and daddy's approval. And it also tells me that you came from dysfunctional, at the very least. At least there was some codependence in your childhood where your worth was based on what you did, and you let your parents get away with things that you wouldn't let normal people get away with in the hopes of being loved. And that's the point. Codependence is feeling you're not worthy of being loved, and so you're willing to do whatever the parental authority figure wants from you. And look, nobody's going to convince me that that little four-year-old boy didn't feel uncomfortable. No 4-year-old boy even likes it when your grandparents want to kiss you on the mouth and on the cheek. We don't even like that. It's a violation of our boundaries. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's okay. We get over it. It doesn't damage us. But, to watch that happen and to know that this guy should know better. He's representing an entire country, an entire culture, an entire religion. And for him to be so wrapped up in himself and to be so regressed in his own, this is the other thing you guys aren't getting here. This is another reason why this guy is not above you. Is that he obviously became so regressed in his own childhood issues that he replayed it. I'm certain somebody did that to him when he was a kid. And it was cute and it was a joke. And he was this little kid who was traumatized because he was taken away from his parents. He was taken away from his home when he was a little kid. And he was surrounded by older men. And who knows what happened? I don't know. I'm not even going to begin to try and figure that out. But at the very least, his only friends were older men who teased him by kissing him on the lips and suck my tongue and whatever else they did, even if we take away all of the potential abuse out of that. And I don't fault him for having that experience, but to be so wrapped up in himself that he now has to replay that as his only way of feeling as though he's connecting and loving this young boy. That's the closest he can get. The point of it is, he is not a God man. He's not a guru. He's as messed up as every one of us. And look at the mistakes this guy has made that shouldn't have been made. And they were made because people co-signed his being isolated and immature and unaware. The fact, again, look at what his status on the jab way back when. He was telling people to go get jabbed. Look at, the fact that he gave Keith Raniere a thumbs up, knowing nothing about him, and the fact that he felt it was his job to promote a for-profit business. That's not his job. Why didn't somebody say, look, it's not your job, Dalai Lama. It's not your job to promote anybody's business. You're a spiritual leader. You're beyond that. A for-profit business, that's none of your business. Stay out of that. For him not to have the awareness to know that, again, shows how isolated and insulated he is from objective reality. And the point of that is, and again, a human being, it's understandable. But he's obviously, his intuition, he's not so spiritual that his intuition is there telling him to watch out for these stupid mistakes. His ego is there. He's got an ego. He's human. That's my point. And the fact that you guys need to come to his defense without having the ability to separate him from the religion. Even if you want to say to me, listen, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist and it's the best religion. So there's people making these arguments as well in the comments. And here's how you know it's the true religion and a true religion. That's got nothing to do with the fact that the Dalai Lama is an imperfect human. And you guys are continuously pushing him up on some pedestal. And you're making excuses for him that you wouldn't make for anybody else. It's time to grow up. That's my point here. It's time to grow up. And the fact that I can't, without any prejudice, because I haven't said anything negative about him or his motives. I don't believe he meant any harm, and I believe he did damage. I think there were people, I myself couldn't watch what he was doing. I was personally, and I haven't survived any of that kind of abuse, but I was personally traumatized and offended by watching that. Imagine people who have gone through that. He needs to have that awareness. The awareness was just not there. And the point is, he's clearly just a flawed human being. And it's time to grow beyond all of that. If we're going to make it to the next level, it's time to let all that go. So all of you I'm addressing you. If you felt uncomfortable when I was pointing out to you that this guy is just a human being who's as flawed as you, if that made you uncomfortable and made you feel the need to go and defend him for something that it should be pointed out to him, Dalai Lama, Your Holiness, that's inappropriate. You can't do that in public. That's wrong. And you need to apologize for your behavior, not just apologize if my words offended you. No, your behavior was wrong. It was short-sighted and it was destructive, even if you didn't mean anything by it. And the fact that he can't do that and his people around him make excuses for him, he's making excuses for himself, calling it a joke. And you guys want to do the same thing. It shows that you still need mommy and daddy's love. It's time to grow up. Be self-empowered. Learn how to love yourself first. Then you'll be able to love others. Then you'll be able to see the Spirit. As long as you're wrapped up in worshiping and defending people, regardless of what you say you believe or don't believe, that's going to hold you back. So This is what all of this is about. This is what the Warrior 90-day challenge is about. And I'm willing to bet every single, or if not most of the people defending the Dalai Lama in the comments, you're not practicing the stuff that I'm teaching. The whole point of this stuff is to get you to be self-empowered. And that's the point of this channel. That was the point of that video. All right? So I'll stop ranting for now. That's it. Again, I've moved over to Rumble because I don't want to be censored, and I'm going to be telling you the truth over there. So go to Rumble, subscribe and like, watch my channels and share it with your friends. As soon as I have enough people over on Rumble following me there, watching my videos, I'm going to get out of YouTube altogether if I can, because I don't want to support their obvious censorship. Okay, that's it, guys. I wish you all the best. See you next time.